Hi, my name's Steve Kaufman, and I want to welcome you to Social Work Organizations and Program Development. This is an introductory video that will sort of talk about what the course does, lay out the agenda, get you all set up for all the assignments and all the fun stuff we're going to do this semester. There also will be some additional actual lecture material that will follow, and I will let you know on a regular basis when that material is available. Some will be available today, some will be available a bit farther along, but we'll get to that in time. So follow along as we talk about what the course is going to do, what your requirements are, readings, all that kind of good stuff, and move to the next slide. So the agenda for the course is essentially what you would expect for a course like this. We are going to examine organizations, and if you look at the next slide, you'll see what the specifics are there. I'll give you the contact information for me so that we can meet as necessary. We'll talk about the readings, what you're going to need to read, when you're going to need to read it, the assignments, so you can begin preparing for some of that, and then a little bit about the schedule of when these videos will be available for your review. So let's move on to the next slide. So the overview. This comes directly from the syllabus, and I think many of you had a chance to read this already. But this is the third course in the macro practice sequence here. The essential purpose of this class is to prepare you for working within and working with organizations. Many of you will spend your entire career working in organizations and understanding something about how they work, what some of the issues are, how you can run them, how you can fundraise, all become very important aspects of that career. Now, you're at Widener to become a clinician, but the reality is that even in this role, many of you will find very shortly that you will move into some sort of administrative positions. We are not training you in our social work program to be an administrator. We are a clinical program, but we want to give you the opportunity to develop at least some skills that will prepare you for that as you move through your career. The reality is that among social workers, there is a high degree of mobility. Staying at an agency or program for more than a couple of years, which many years ago might have been the norm, is no longer the case. Many people move through 15 or 20 different organizations during the entire career in the social work profession. I guess to some degree that's not surprising, because that's in a lot of ways the way that we have reorganized society in general. It's just we're more overt about it, because with each of these moves we often tend to change not just the tasks of what we're doing, but our responsibilities, sometimes the client groups, and certainly the skill sets will change. So again, as you move through your career, there is more and more of an opportunity for you, and again for some of you maybe quite soon, to be an administrator, to manage organizations, and to worry about money, which is one thing that organization management does. So in this class we'll talk about sort of all those things. Next slide. Okay, so in the short term, immediately, if you need to contact me, my phone number is 610-499-1284. But the best way to contact me is always email. Like many of you, I'm constantly on my smartphone or my computer, and I check my emails probably 30 times a day. Check my phone once a day at best. So email is always the best way to contact me if you want to set up an appointment, come by and talk, think about an assignment, whatever the case might be. And then if you want to see me in person, I'm at Widener several days a week, but I have formal office hours on Thursdays from 2 to 5. But please feel free to email me and set up an appointment at a time that works for you if that time does not work. I'm located in Bruce 230, which is the second floor of the social work building. Next slide. Okay, so again, the purposes for this class. First of all, to understand what organizations are, how they work, and why they're important. If any of you have had the opportunity to flip a light switch, or drive down the road, or buy bread, or see a client in the last 2 weeks, more than likely it happened inside an organization or because of what an organization did. They are a critical moderator between the individual and the world that the individual lives in. They are absolutely essential for meeting our needs. So to be an effective social worker, we can even step back and say to be an effective human in 21st century America, you need to understand something about what organizations are, how they work, and why they're important. So that's a big chunk of what we're going to do in this class. Secondly, as I mentioned, management and administrative skills are critical. So you can actually think of this entire class as an opportunity to develop that, but we have some sessions that are specifically focused on that. Funding. Money for social services is less and less focused on government and legislation. And increasingly, a lot of the funding that we have to develop to provide our services comes from the direct entrepreneurial activity of organizations themselves. So we want to investigate that process, and in particular, we want to give you some skills in those areas. And a lot of people talk about this class as the grant writing class. Well, that's the primary reason. Because in order to fund all of the tasks that we need to do, we cannot rely on the good graces of government or others to just give us money. We need to be able to make an effective argument as to why we need it, what we're going to do with it, and the benefits that are going to come about as a result of it. So with that in mind, the major assignment and a major function of this class is going to be to write a grant. Next slide. So the texts. There are 2 texts you absolutely have to have, and a third one you've got some choice on, and then, of course, there are always reserved readings as well. The 2 texts that you absolutely have to have, Kettner and Maroney, Designing and Management Programs, is the basic foundational text for the class. It goes through the process of defining what a program is, how you develop it, and how you write a grant. So you'll need that for your final assignment. Brody and McNair, Effectively Managing Human Services Organizations, is a very useful textbook on administration and management, and you'll find that useful for your entire career. And then toward the end of the class, you're also going to want a text on program evaluation. And there's some choices that I will give you as we move along. Royce and Thayer is the one that we have selected out for you, but there are some others. It may not seem that research and evaluation is a critical component of administration, but it certainly is. We have to be able to demonstrate to the larger world that what we're doing works. And when you write a grant, you absolutely positively have to have a plan for how you're going to examine what you're doing. A grant itself is a plan. It's a plan to provide some service or some sets of services. Along with that plan, you need a plan for how you're going to examine and watch what you're doing, how you're going to demonstrate that you've been effective or identify potential issues or problems. So we want you to have some program evaluation skills along with that. And then again, there are some shared files that will be available on Campus Cruiser. Next slide. So the assignments. There are 3 assignments for the class. An organizational capacity assessment. You are going to examine your organization for its ability to take on a new program, and that will be the first one. That's due on 2/27. We will talk in depth about that the next set of lectures you receive from me. Not today, but the next set. Subsequent to that, you're going to need to write your grant. And we have that broken into two sections. Statement of need and program goals and objectives is the first of these, and that's due on 4/2. And then the program proposal itself, which is due on 4/30. Now, you really want to think about all three of those written assignments as one whole. They all relate to the process of writing the single grant. They're, in a lot of ways, major steps that you need to do in writing any grant. So with that in mind, I want to spend a couple of minutes here talking about the grant that you're going to write. And you can read about this in greater detail in the syllabus, and we will talk more about it again in subsequent lectures. But I'd like to give you the opportunity to do this for real. If you have an organization that you want to work with, and help them to write the grant, so sorry about that. So if you want to write this proposal, you have two ways to go. You could either write it for real and try and get funding, and every semester we have some people that are successful in doing this, or you can do it solely for a class assignment. But if you want to do it for real, there are some things that you want to do reasonably soon, certainly within the next month. And I'll give you 3 questions that you want to take to the powers that be at your organization. Now, first of all, any grant that you write has to be done in an organization. Even though you're the person writing it, it's the organization that's submitting it. So the first thing you need to do is think about an organization that you want to affiliate with. It can be your job, it can be your field placement, it can be something that you've done some volunteering with. If you're interested, I also have some opportunities available in a project I'm working on in the Strawberry Mansion area of Philadelphia that can always use grant writing assistance, whatever. But you need to find an organization. But let's say you've identified one, and you're thinking about the possibility of doing this for real. What you want to do is you want to go to the powers that be in that organization, whether it's your field instructor, your boss, whatever the case might be, and ask them a couple of questions. First of all, explain the assignment. Say you have to write a grant, and you're considering doing it for real, as opposed to just a class grade. If you want to do it for real, ask them, do you have a project that you would like me to write a grant for? Again, I want you to write the grant, but it's for your organization. So, do you have a project you want a grant written for? If the answer is yes, the next question is, can I do it? If they say, no, we're not comfortable with that, fine, just do it for your class grade, all is well. But if they say yes, then the third question is, do you have a funding source identified? If you have a funding source identified, I want you to use that for the class project, as opposed to the example that I give in the syllabus. So read over the grant process. We will talk more about that in the next set of lectures. But understand that you have the option of doing this for real, and I would like you to consider doing that if you have the chance. So that concludes this quick introduction. We will pick up all of these things as we move along. And again, there are a couple of additional actual lectures that will follow, and I will be speaking to you soon. Take care.